feel like we're getting a glimpse into your show when you do these little enacting moments. So your connection with the audience, how did you develop that? Did you ever have trouble looking down? How did that work that you became so charismatic? Was that you just learned it from others?
I don't know what you mean.
I mean, I can tell, I've never gotten to see you dance live, but I can see you here very charismatic, and your connection to the audience must have been a real thing.
Well, you know, I think, and I'm just one performer, and other performers have ways of doing things, but you really, when you first greet them, you've got to tell them, I'm going to tell you something. I have something to tell you that's going to be so wonderful. It's going to be so great. Wait till you find out what I'm going to tell you. So there's a lot you do before you get to the part where you do the dramatic thing. Because you can do a dramatic thing, and everybody's smoking and drinking and eating their stuff. And what's she doing now? I don't know. Just, you know, you got to say, I'm going to tell you something. Listen, listen. Watch this. Listen. And so, and that's one of the things about the 5-part routine. You got all this way to build up to what you're going to do. You know, here I am, but it's always bringing them in. And sometimes it didn't work. Sometimes everybody is just eating and drinking, and they're all half of the bag by the time you get to them. I mean, it doesn't always work every time. I guess that's part of the fun of it, that you don't know what you got. You don't know what you got.
So you like that challenge of, can I get them?
Yep. And then, like I said, it's not always 100%. Sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. But if they do most of the time, it's really good.
So you have some really proud moments. Obviously, your sword. I have here that you ended up in Turkey dancing at an engagement party. How does that happen?
Well, I went to the last trip to Turkey. I went with a friend who was visiting relatives. She was supposed to go with her boyfriend, but the idea that she wasn't married to this man she was traveling with was so abhorrent to the relatives that she said, I can't bring him. Would you like to come with me instead? So I didn't know the relatives, but there was a betrothal, an engagement, which was a really big thing. They write stuff down in a book and just for the engagement. And the relatives heard that I was a belly dancer, and they were a nice family, and they didn't know how to handle it. Because here I was, this nice lady traveling with their relative, and they knew belly dancers were okay, but they didn't, you know, they didn't know how to handle it. So I had brought my cymbals with me, and I said, yeah, I'll dance at her party. They had a band, and I did, and I did a nice dance. I did a nice dance with the cymbals, and it was okay. It was just a very nice dance.
So you had to win them
Yes,
over
I
that
did.
you're a wholesome, real person.
Yes.
So you kind of had to sometimes rescue the dance from a preconceived.
That's exactly, thank you. That was very good the way you said that, yes.
That probably came up a lot, and we don't have to deal with that as much because you set people straight on that it's an art.
Yeah, I think that's important, and I did many bellygrams where people would say that to me. They say I had no idea that there was skill involved. Imagine that.
Right. Can you tell us about bellygrams? What the heck is that?
Oh, a bellygram is, does everybody know what a bellygram is? At one time, and I can't remember, I wish I could pick a year for you, somebody in California started this idea. Everybody knows what a singing telegram is. A guy comes and sings happy birthday to you. And somebody thought, well, they started doing, they would send a clown, okay, a clown to read something funny to somebody. Or I understand you get a bag lady to come to somebody's office and sing happy birthday. It's pretty much happy birthday or congratulations. And then some belly dancers thought this would be a good idea. You could send a little belly dancer. Well, this took off, and it took off in many, many ways. I know how I used it. It wasn't the same as how other people would use it. But basically, you would have a 10 or 15 minute, sometimes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 20 minutes. I worked for a group called Boston Oriental Dancers. We were a co-op of women. And we advertised as the Boston Oriental Dancers. We hired one person to answer the telephone to take calls. And she would farm the jobs out and see who wanted to do what. So I didn't get jobs except through, I don't know how other people did it. There were entertainment companies that had everything, and they would put a belly dancer on. And what those people's experiences were, I don't know, but you could do almost anything with them. I know some people said, well, you're supposed to embarrass the person. You're supposed to, like in an office, say it's his birthday, and in an office, this dancer comes in a beautiful costume, and she says, where's Jeff? And she goes to Jeff, who's sitting in his desk or his cubicle, and he's saying, oh my God. And she's doing this little dance and saying, Jeff, happy birthday, or whatever she wanted to do. And everybody laughs, and then she goes home. And you could kind of create your own kind of bellygram. I never did that. I didn't want to embarrass anybody. And I found out something really, really important, that the bulk of people who hired me or us were women. It was the woman who called you up for the wedding. It was the woman who called you up for the celebration or the office party. It was a female who was arranging. So I don't want to annoy the woman. I don't want to, she's the person who hired me. So with that in mind, so many of these things were the same. There was the man at the office. There was the 40th or 50th birthday party that a woman was arranging for her husband. There were different birthday things. And what they wanted was they wanted something nice and pretty and that would celebrate that person, make them feel kind of special, not make them feel embarrassed, make them feel special. So that's what the bellygram was. You went and you did a little 5-minute thing. And what I did was I kind of jazzed it up a little bit. I had a thing with the Middle East restaurant where they had, on Monday or Tuesday nights, you could get a little paper that said you could get a twofer, you could get a meal, 2 meals for one. Hardly anybody ever used it, but it was a gift. So I would tuck it into my hip. I would roll it up with a little ribbon on, tuck it into my hip. And when the music started, and poor Charles didn't know what was happening, he says, what's going on? The music would start, push the little boombox thing, and I would come dancing out with this thing in my hip, and I'd say, happy birthday, Charles. Here's your, and he'd take the thing out because he didn't know what else to do. And he'd unroll it because he's embarrassed, and he'd read the thing, and I'd do this little dance, and then I would read him a little poem, and that's just what I did. But it was mostly, you took 10 minutes to make somebody feel really good and happy, and think, gee, that was really nice.
So you have restaurants and clubs and grams, and private parties are different.
Different from what? From each other?
Than grams.
Oh, yes.
So private parties are yet another thing you're doing.
That's right.
How many nights a week are you dancing at this?
Oh, I don't know, I don't know. It depends on how busy things were.
It's a lot, though.
The bellygrams would take time.
So private parties were like weddings?
Weddings. Everybody loved a sword dance at a wedding. Sword never let me down. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of weddings, or a lot of 40th and 50th birthday parties. And once the bellygram thing got out, people liked it. It was something pretty and something nice and something a little different. So yeah.
Did you have, with the co-op, there was the co-op you mentioned, was that a different co-op than the Club Cairo co-op?
Yes, yeah, Club Cairo. Club Cairo was, that was not the same as the Boston Oriental Dancers.
Okay.
But Nancy Barber was involved in both of them.
Okay.
And Club Cairo, oh gosh, I'm glad you brought that up. The dancers and the musicians had this co-op, and Friday nights at the dance complex in Cambridge. I don't know if anybody remembers it. It was on the 5th floor on Central Square. And again, you could get a parking space in Cambridge on Mass Ave at the time. We'd haul all our stuff up to the 5th floor, and it was great because the musicians, the dancers, and all the dancers came. But in Central Square at the time, in the summer especially, there was all kinds of weird people wandering around in the street who would come up and see the show. It was so creative and so much fun, and people would dance. I mean, it was wonderful. It was a wonderful venue. There were 3 shows. 2 of them were for the professionals, and the center show was for a student. We wanted the student to have a chance. And that's where I did the flower dance that I will never forget as long as I live.
So the flower dance was a solstice dance? What happened?
It was the solstice. It was June 21st, and it was my turn to dance. And I said, and I was getting my costume together, and I said, I always wanted to make a costume with flowers all over it. What would it be like if I did that?
Real flowers.
Real flowers. So I went out in the yard and there were peonies everywhere, and I took peonies. That's what that picture is about. I took peonies and I stuffed them in my, I don't know where I got this idea. But anyway, I put my costume on. I put peonies in my belt. I put little roses in my bra. I put daisies. I tucked in my hair that were kind of sticking out like little antennas. I think I even put little flowers in my shoes. I had flowers all over me. And I said, well, I've got to get into Central Square like this somehow. I live where I live now in Manchester by the Sea, north of Boston. And so I had a piece of silk that Auntie Myrtle gave me a long time ago. It was about 5 feet long. So I wrapped myself in this piece of silk, and I got a mister, and I was kind of misting myself so the flowers wouldn't fade. And I got in the car, and I'll never forget it. I drove to Cambridge. I went through the Tobin Bridge, and I'm looking at the guy with little things popping in my head. He didn't bat an eye. He just took the thing and so I got to Central Square, and I said, how am I going to do this? So I parked the car, because, again, you could get a parking space. And I walked a couple of blocks down the street to the dance complex. Nobody looked at me. I was wrapped in a 5-foot piece of silk with things hanging out of my head. That's the kind of crowd that was there at the time. So I walked there. I went up the 5 steps, and I kept misting myself because I said, this is a really hot night. And everybody saying, what do you, I said, well, I'm going to dance.
Are you misting the hair flowers too?
Well, the best I could, without making a mess. So I was the last show. The first show danced, and then the student danced. And I remember that third show because the wood player, and I can't remember who it was, I think I remember, said, and now for the moment we've all been waiting for. So I said, this is it. So I came out and did my dance, and it was so hot. The peonies, of course, by then were all wilting. And every time I danced, the things would fly up. So I've been one of those pictures. The floor was covered with petals, and everybody. It was a wreck by the time it was done. But I'll never forget it. I always wanted to do it. It was a great dance. We all had fun, and that's one of my best memories.
Wow. Was that a full 5-part show?
Oh, yeah.
You went to the floor with the peonies?
Oh, yeah.
Did you put them through the sword?
I don't know. I did. I know I went to the floor because the sword's in the picture. The floor.
Okay. We'll look at the picture in a minute.
Tell us about the hand thing.
The hand thing. Well, it was something I developed. Like I said, once your audience gets to know you, sometimes they're interested in. I experimented a lot. So when I was at the Middle East, when I would dance with the veil, I just got it into my head. I would dance with the veil, and then I would put the veil over me so that only my hands would. I'd get down on my knees. And I'd start doing all these little mudras with my hands because it was just fun. It was just, I'd be making symbols, and again, totally veiled with the hands. And I found that the audience liked it. They seemed really interested. And so then I would do more, and people would ask me what they meant, and I didn't know what they meant. They didn't mean anything. I was just kind of practicing the different hand things. And then I would get up and take the veil off, and then I would go on. So that's what the hand thing was. I would just do hand things, and people would like it.
And it was a memorable moment for you because it was just an
well,
authentic thing that developed.
Yeah, I just made it up, and I said, oh, they like it. If they like it, then you do it more. And when they don't like it anymore, then you don't do it. But I enjoyed doing the hands. I enjoyed playing with the different things you could do. And then, when you practice in front of a mirror, you see a lot of what. I'm always, again, I'm a visual artist. I like to see line. I like to see, there's artistic principles that in a dance is the same as in a picture. It's the same principles, proportion, line, mass. So what you're practicing or what you're doing here, this is in front of a dark thing, and you're creating a line with this, you're creating a space with that. And it is visually interesting to an audience, to who's ever looking. So it was a little, all the time I'm doing this. I've been doing art all my life. I've been doing drawing since I was 2 years old. I'm just making art a different way, that's all. I'm making a picture that's moving.
I mean, your dancing is an extension of what you learned.
I always felt that way, always, yeah.
You're making that, but in 3 dimensions.
Yeah, I'm making art a different way, yep. And that includes costuming, because I got into my own costuming.
You made all your own?
Most of them, yeah, yeah.
How long would that take for one?
Oh, forever, because I'd get a piece
Forever.
of, like that piece of fabric, not the red pants, those were great big balloony harem pants. And then that greenish thing here, I found a piece of fabric that was thick, woven, it was dark green and black, and it had gold things shot through it. And then I said, what can I do with this? But there's not enough to make a whole skirt, so I'll make a half skirt, and I'll have the red pants come out in front, and I'll put this thick black, it was very heavy. Because on the top, I had all the junk jewelry that I had in drawers all over the house, and I made the top out of the junk jewelry. So I had to have something substantial down here. It took a long time to put on that costume.
So the half skirt, you mean, is like the back half of the skirt?
Yeah.
It's just a skirt down the back, and the front
Yeah,
is the
see where it's
pants?
tucked in on the hips?
Okay.
It's,
Yeah,
it's
I see.
And then it would be the square in the back, so I would take the 2 ends of the squares and lift them up and stuff them in my hips. So you had this, everybody kind of figure out what I'm saying? So you'd have this thing. So it would be just in the back, and these big balloony pants would be out in front. And there would be all this stuff here. And did it look like everybody else's? No, it didn't. It didn't.
Did everybody else's look like everybody else's? Everybody was making their own, so.
Everybody was making their own, yeah. So people did.
But there were fads that ran through your colleagues? Or
Well,
people?
you did a bra and a belt.
Okay.
And then you had a skirt. We used to wear harem pants a lot in a skirt. And then after a while, you didn't wear the harem pants anymore. You just had the skirt.
Okay.
And then you would make a little thing so your leg would show. But when I started, the legs were covered a lot. And the whole idea was it's to emphasize your hips. You get this moving hip thing. It's just moving and moving, and everything else is covered, and you just see this. And that was the thinking.
Make some line of demarcation so the hip movement shows.
And then nothing else. You weren't flashing a leg. You weren't,
Okay, you didn't want to distract.
this was what you were dancing with right here. Okay. And you weren't flashing a leg or doing, and then the other stuff, things evolve. Nothing stays the same. And somebody will see something. Well, I hope I have a chance to tell you that story.
What is it?
Oh, the one about the Uzbekistan cultural appropriation thing.
Yeah, well, you traveled, so you.
Oh, a lot, yeah.
The traveling piece, why don't we put that in there? You traveled for workshops, that's what we do, or was it on your own, like following Aunt Rocky? You were trying to study? What was happening there?
Well, I loved travel. I wanted to go to all these places that I was listening to the music to. So I was lucky enough to go to Istanbul a couple of times, to Turkey a couple of times. One of them was with like I said, the woman who couldn't travel with her boyfriend, so I went with her. So we stayed. That was a lovely trip. I went with Rocky on a specific tour for dancers to go to the Marrakesh Folk Festival, which was a high point. I remember that. So I went to Morocco. I went to Egypt with Katya. I think a lot of us did that.
Katya, for people that don't know.
Katya's a dance teacher, very well-known dance teacher in the area, and she would do these trips to Egypt. And everybody wants to go to Egypt. I mean, I remember the first time I saw the pyramids. I says, holy crap, the pyramids. There they are.
So were you studying dance when you were there?
Yes.
And Katya would set that up?
Well, she set up a class with Mahmoud Rida, and I remember sketching. In fact, that's in one of my sketchbooks. I remember sketching at his class. So, and he was just...
Do you have sketches of Mahmoud Rida?
I have one little tiny sketch in there. Of
Wow.
him. Yeah. So, but there were other trips. There were trips... I just like traveling. And the trip to Uzbekistan was, again, with a friend who was visiting relatives. That's Central Asia. It's just north of Afghanistan. And I had quite a few adventures there that I remember very well. So, and then just, to Europe and France and Spain. And, I had quite an experience in Spain. Well, anyway, I mean, I could go on and on with that, but...
Well, I think there's a story about this scarf. Is there?
Well, this scarf. This is beautiful. They weave these on hand looms, and the women, they make pants and skirts out of these, and they kind of wear them all the time. I couldn't believe something so beautiful. But I wanted to say something about that. There's a lot of talk now about cultural appropriation. We never ran into that when I was dancing. If you love the music, you dance to it. But the cultural appropriation, I may not be getting this right, means if you don't have the ethnic background, you shouldn't be doing it. I was told that a few times. You know, where are you from? You can't do this. You shouldn't be playing around with this music. It's not your music.
Okay.
So you're not supposed to do this. Well, my argument to that is, hey, dude, musicians have been doing this since the beginning of time. You hear a little riff and you say, oh, that's interesting, and you fiddle around with it. Artists do it all the time. They see a thing. Picasso saw African masks, and then he said, what if I put that nose on that thing? You see, it works that way. You don't have to come from. So anyway, here I was in Uzbekistan with my friend Cheryl, who was visiting her relatives, who happened to be Ukrainians who were in that area because Stalin did something very, very nasty in World War II, and he moved all these people out there, but that's neither here nor there. So we wanted to hear music. I wanted to hear music and go out to eat. And there were lots of these just sort of cruddy little restaurants. There were cement buildings that maybe they did fix cars in them during the week, and on the weekend they put up a little stage and have musicians, and you'd have dinner. They had little shish kebab things outside. People are cooking the meat and then bring your dinner, and it was really just kind of homey and nice. So we went out one night to one of these places, and there was a little makeshift stage and a little makeshift band, and a folk troupe came out and did this folky dance, Central Asian costumes. And then the dancer came out, and I says, oh my gosh, she's trying to be a belly dancer. She came out with a hip scarf and a little bra, and she's playing cymbals, and she's dancing, and it was very cute because she was kind of giving it her best shot. You know, it wasn't that great, but neither was anything else, but it was okay. And I was watching her hips, and I said, you know, I wonder if she studied with Nesrin Topkapi, who was a very famous teacher in Turkey at the time, who I had met previously in another trip. And I said, I want to ask her. First, I want to go backstage afterwards. I want to tip them. I want them to know that I appreciated. But not having the language, I had to ask one of the people at the restaurant. So I went backstage, and here's the troupe, and they're all bustling around and folding things up. And here's the troupe member. She's an older lady who's making sure everything's going properly. And so I said to the translator, I want to thank you for your performance, and thank you very much. And I like the troupe thing, but I said, you know, I noticed that the dancer didn't use a veil in her performance. And I was wondering about that. And again, this is being translated. And the woman said, what do you mean veil? And I said, well, where I come from in the States, when we do we do a veil, we dance with the veil. That's part of the belly dance show. And she said, show me. Show me. I said, okay. So they produced a veil, a little scarf or something. And I said, well, so I said, well, first you do this. And she's looking at me. And then you do, you know, the thing I was watching today, the little sandwich thing. And then you do these. And then she's looking at the whole thing. Just do it again. Okay. So I gave her a little veil lesson. She says, thank you. So I went away, and I'm thinking, somebody's going to come through here, and they're going to stop at this restaurant, and they're going to see a dancer come out with a veil, and they're going to say, you know, it's authentic that this...
Right.
So much for cultural...
Yeah.
So who knows where that went?
It's a beautiful story. And I like what you're saying. I think you're saying when it comes to art, there is a lot of give and take between cultures and people, and that is age old.
It's age old. You say, oh, I like that. I'm going to try that. Oh, I like that. I wonder if I could do that. Right? Yes.
Yet, I feel like the message I got from you and many mentors is that as dancers, we are also outsiders, and we also bring great reverence and respect. So it's kind of a both thing. Where you were there, you studied with Nesrin Topkapi, you went to Egypt to try to study, you met Mahmoud Reda.
Yeah.
So it's both kind of, we're seeking the culture, we're seeking the source, but we're also artists allowing ourselves to explore what is calling to us.
Yeah, you want to be respectful. You always want to be respectful. But wasn't Mahmoud Rida the guy that brought the ballet?
Yes. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Point is, this happens.
Yes.
Okay.
And organically. Oh, that looks fun. Let me try that. Well, you
Right.
didn't grow up there. So what? I'm going to try it anyway. You know, you have to be respectful. What do I mean by that? You have to be respectful. I don't know. It's just people. I know musicians have always done this.
Yeah.
And artists have always done this. That looks like fun. Let's see. Oh, that kind of paper. What if I tried that? Or what if I tried that? Or, ooh. I mean, that's how it goes. That's how it works.
It seems like what if is a guiding principle or source of inspiration for a lot of different artists to allow the what if to
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's
percolate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what else is there? I mean, let's try this.
Right. I'm just so excited about hearing all your professional dance experiences. And I wanted to ask you, at some point, there were, again, we get all our information from the internet now, but when I first started, we were reading paper newsletters. Well, there was email like groups that we were in. And so your work, did you do, I think there's pieces in here that show you got involved with the newsletters. You were doing
Yeah,
what do you call them, logos?
logos. I did the logo for Habibi. That was a pretty good magazine.
Pieces.
Yeah. This is a terrific belly dance magazine, and I designed the logos and the artwork for them.
For Habibi.
But there's all this was a terrific paper.
So this is how you would find out if
That's right.
Mahmoud Reda was going to be somewhere
Yeah.
and you could travel to.
Yep.
So these were not the only magazines that you were doing artwork for or newsletters. Am I correct on
There
that?
was Bobby Farah, who we didn't talk
Oh,
about at all.
Arabesque magazine.
Yep.
Arabesque?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to stick him right here, Horatio Fuentes.
Oh, Fuentes, I remember him. Oh my God. I
beautiful.
saw him do a shimmy that just, he was a man. And he came out with these pants, and he had little fringe like spiraling down his legs. And he stood there, and it looked like he wasn't moving. And the fringe was about this long, it was short fringe, and every bit of fringe was going like this.
Oh,
I said, how is he doing? And he's just standing there. I mean, it looks like he wasn't moving. It knocked me out. I thought it was so beautiful.
wow. So you saw a lot of men. We haven't seen a lot of men in my time in terms of,
He was from Europe, I think.
and then
He
you had
was married to
Kasim
the
here and Amir,
dancer,
and they
Amir.
became your colleagues. They were dancing at the same time.
That's
as you.
right. Amir was dancing, and Norman.
And Norman. Okay. So your professional career has a lot of stuff to be proud of. And I asked you once about that, and it was surprising to me that you said two of the proudest moments had to do with Grams.
Oh, yes.
Am I on the right track here?
Well, about being proud, there's something I want to say about that before we talk about the Grams, because there were two belly Grams that touched my heart so deeply. And people made light of Grams and saying, well, they're just kind of stupid and you write stuff in your belly and you embarrass somebody. But two things happened. It wasn't that way. You were making somebody happy, but there were two things that happened with Grams I'll never forget. One of them was a woman called me and asked me, he said, I want you to dance at the Veterans Hospital. My husband's there. And I said, I don't know. I didn't know if I wanted to do it. And I said, well, talk to me a little bit. She was one of a couple, very young. I think they were like 19 or 20 years old. She said, my husband has had an accident. He is paralyzed from maybe the chest down. She said, I want you to dance for him. And I said, what? She said, yes, I'm going to hire you to belly dance for him. It's in the ward. There's going to be other people in there, but that dances for him. And I couldn't help it. I said, he's really injured. And she said, yes, he is. And I said, well, why do you want me to dance for him? I don't understand. And she said, I want him to know that I still think of him as a man, and we are going to get through this together no matter what. And I want you to dance that. It didn't break my heart, but I said, oh my God, what a responsibility. I did. I got the prettiest costume I had. I danced my heart out. I just made that as beautiful and complete and wonderful as I could. Well, she stood by his bed. I remember her. She had long blonde hair. She stood by his head with her hand on him. I said, this is the dance for you. We're going to get through this any way as best we can. And you were still a man to me. And I'll just never forget that. I'll never forget that, the love that was there. The other one was a woman called me on Christmas Eve, and she said, I need you to come and dance. Would you dance? Now, again, I live in Manchester by the Sea, which is maybe an hour out of Boston. She said, come to, I said, well, I don't know. She said, please, I want you to dance for my husband. I want for him to know how much we love him, and I want you to come and dance. Come to the apartment. She said, come to the loading dock in South Boston. Don't worry, it's okay. I'll get you up to the apartment. The wind is blowing sideways. I'm driving. I get to the loading dock. She's downstairs in her little coat, and she's waving. She's come upstairs. We went upstairs to like the third floor or something over the loading dock. She said, my husband's in there near the Christmas tree. I want you to dance for him. I set up my little boom box. I come out to dance in this little room with a big Christmas tree. It's all full of lights. There's no other lights on. She's sitting there, and beside her are two little girls, maybe 9 and 11 years old. They have patent leather shoes. They're all dressed up. And by the Christmas tree is this guy sitting. And he's just a guy. There's nothing special about him. He's just sitting there, and he's looking at them. I could feel the love in that room, almost like I could touch it. I saw him. His eyes are shining from the lights in the Christmas tree. And again, I did the most beautiful dance I could possibly think of to show him how much his mother, his wife, and little girls loved him. I'll never forget it. And there's the little girls are standing there, looking, their little shoes, and his wife is sitting there. And I said, what? I felt privileged that I was allowed to do that fate had brought me there. So, and those were Grahams. Those were belly grams.
Wow, they're beautiful stories, very moving. And it kind of brings me to a question about, we touched on it earlier, how you probably had moments where you had to rescue the dance from someone's ill-conceived idea and prove that it was an art. And
Yeah.
these stories just really illustrate where you were dancing from, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Can I ask about Club Cairo? The co-op, was that somehow created to, again, create a place for the dancers to be
Yes.
artful and be surely viewed as artists?
Yes, and one of our foremothers, Barbara Brandt, started that. Nancy Barber picked up on it. But she said we should be able to dance for each other.
What was done there that made it different than a restaurant or club and helped elevate you as an artist?
So your question was, how is it different from the club scene?
Yeah, how was Club Cairo different we're talking about how you elevated, you as a culture of dancers, how you recognized we need to elevate our dance, remove it maybe from certain settings, and what did you do here in this setting in Club Cairo, which was a co-op?
I don't know, as we were so interested in trying to not have it like other clubs. We just wanted a place where dancers could dance their dance, could feel comfortable, the musicians could get together. It was our club. It was our club.
So run by you.
Run by us.
Run by you, for one thing, not a restaurant owner.
No. And then people brought snacks. There was food, and you could buy drinks, and it was us. It was us together. The difference between Club Cairo and, say, one of the restaurants was at Club Cairo, at one of the restaurants, I never could have done that flower dance.
Right, so you could
I
experiment.
could never pull that off.
Okay.
So you could experiment. Students could feel really at ease. You didn't have to worry about a whole bunch of things. You just did your dance with people that were very open to what you were doing. Either they were in off the street, or there were other dancers. It was great.
Now, line dancing was part of being a professional.
Sometimes you were expected to do that.
That
Yes.
was after your show.
Sometimes in between shows. I had at the Grecian Urn. Sometimes I had to to line dance.
And so you had to know line dances of all the cultures.
I only knew 3 Greek dances. That's all I knew.
So you were the Greek line dance
No,
gal.
I wasn't. At the Grecian Urn, I did because the owner said, I want you to do that.
Okay.
But at Club Cairo,
Yes.
there were, who was their name? Gary and Susan. Anyway, they would come in. They were the folk dance professionals. So They
Okay.
would come in and they would teach different line dancing. That wasn't up to the dancer.
Okay, at that place.
Yep.
It seemed
Club
like
Cairo.
when I came along, Phaedra was one of my teachers, and she seemed to know every line dance of every culture. She set the bar ridiculous. She set that bar so high.
Well, she used to be very close friends with a guy who did folk dancing all the time.
Oh, that's right.
I can't remember his name right
yeah,
now, but yeah.
Okay. There was another proud moment that you had mentioned, and it actually doesn't sound anything like the others. It was the toughest dance you ever had to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when I was dancing at a big Greek affair in Gloucester. Live band, food, the whole money, it was a big Greek thing. And my son, Brian, was a senior in high school. And they had just, he said, we're going to come, the kids know that you're dancing up in Gloucester and they want to come and see you. They had gone to a big dance. It wasn't the prom, but it was some big fancy dance. So I said, well, okay. So here's my teenage son with his girlfriend and 2 other couples coming to this Greek thing to see Brian's mom dance. This was tough. I didn't want to embarrass him, but I wanted to do it. And of course, I'm getting paid to dance. I couldn't just play around with that either. I did a beautiful sword dance. I was so proud of myself. And you know, in a Greek club, people throw money. That's what they do. So they threw a lot of money, which was very impressed. I did it, and I finished it, and it was tough. Yeah, that was a tough one. Don't embarrass your teenage son.
And you had mentioned a proud moment to do with teaching. Were you teaching
yes.
during your professional dancing? I know you started with Adana teaching the beginners. Did you keep teaching?
All the time.
All the way.
I taught at the dance complex. I taught for North Shore Community College in their, extra, whatever. I taught at the high school. I taught private classes. I taught all the time. I was always teaching, yes. And there were 2 interesting things that happened. There's that moment, and I get it, and a lot of teachers do, but a lot of people get it. They get it. There was a moment when women would come to the class, and so many women came and said, or first they would talk to you in a club when you dance. They said, I've always wanted to do this. Tell me about it. So people would come to class, say, I always wanted to do this. I don't know what to do. I'm a klutz. I can't move. What'll I do? But there was that moment when she put on the hip scarf and she'd look herself in the mirror and she'd do that little and the coins would jingle and something happened. That moment when you say, that's me, that's me, that's me, yeah, it's me. And then it's forever. Then you go on forever. It's that moment that happens, and it happens to women, and it just got me every single time I'd see that. And sometimes they'd tell you, they'd say, I feel different now. I'm not the same person. Or I know, it's kind of like me. I had to do it. There wasn't any question. But to see that happen, it just filled my heart to say, yes, she found herself. There she is. She saw herself.
So that's one of your
Absolutely.
happiest moments.
You see, yes. Yep.
It's so interesting because it sounds like your moment when you walked into Adana's and you were just hit.
Yeah, that I have to do this.
And so you like that.
Well, I felt the music, but to see her look in the mirror, there she is. And she got this thing on her hips, and she moved. It's me. You must all know that moment. Everybody must know it.
Yeah.
And I love that part. I love that part about teaching.
Oh, I love it. I love hearing about it. This is 2 cards full of things to be proud of in your professional dancing, but I don't think it will really hit us like seeing your pictures. So we've got a collection of photos here, but before we do that, I didn't know if there was anything else when you reflect back that's specific to you, and it doesn't even have to be a dance thing, maybe just an awareness of a time in history? I don't know.
I don't know how to answer that. I would have to think about it. But I do know that there wasn't any way this wasn't going to happen to me. It just one way or another was going to happen to me. There are a lot of coincidences happen. You know, Arthur Fiedler, Adana, me be given two swords, two, by somebody who said, "Oh, they don't want to just take." I mean, it just it was going to happen the way it was. I can't imagine my life without it. I can't imagine the friendships I've had. Oh, the one thing I wanted to say was this. It's about the artwork, because I haven't talked about that at all. The thing about the artwork is, I remember when I finally I was in love with this dance, and the hip thing happened to me, and I said, now I want a picture. I want a picture of a belly dancer. Where's the picture of a belly dancer? I couldn't find one. And finally, if I found one, it was something stupid. It was some little sweetie. It was stupid. I said, that's not the dance. So, and I didn't have any pictures. And I said, well, I might as well make one. I'm an artist, I might as well make one. So I made some very small black and white drawings, and people liked them. And so then that's how I started with doing the dance picture. It never occurred to me just to make dance pictures until I found out I couldn't find a dance picture. So I would get inspiration from different dancers. That was one of the things about going to see dancers all the time and sketching all the time, like in the sketchbooks. I just had to make more pictures. Anyway, did that come out all right?
Yeah, so that happened during, when you were a student, you were sketching.
I wasn't sketching until, let's see, I was at Donna's studio when she asked me to start teaching. No, well, maybe it was, I don't know. I was into the dance a little bit, and I wanted a picture, because you always do. When you're doing something, you want to, if you're raising horses, you want a horse picture. If you want something, you want a something else picture. I want a dance picture, a belly dance picture.
So
maybe I was a couple of years into the dance, maybe.
The works on these walls you were creating for decades.
Yes, these are a result of just years and years of sketching and observing and sketching and observing and sketching and observing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't we take a break, and when we come back, we can look at the pictures and you can talk us through this art. Is that
Sure.
Does that feel good to everybody?
Everybody's still here?
We're still here. Thank you for letting me pepper you with all of these questions. Thank you all for your rapt attention. And when we come back, we'll look at all of the pictures and artwork.